In the 1960s, streetcars hit 170 miles per hour, speed the world thought was impossible.
They call the 1960s the golden age of muscle, a time when Detroit roared louder than the world itself, when every street echoed with the sound of V8 thunder and every young man dreamed of owning something fast, loud, and untouchable. But here's the part nobody talks about. Not every chrome-covered beast from that decade was a masterpiece. Some were marketing miracles, sold on sound, not substance. Cars that looked like legends but drove like disappointments. Over the years, nostalgia turned these machines into untouchable icons. Prices shot through the roof, myths grew taller, and truth quietly disappeared in the smoke of burnout stories. But 2025 is not 1969, and if you're chasing these classics today, you might be buying hype, not heritage. Because behind those famous badges and magazine covers lie flaws, failures, and a few hard truths car lovers rarely admit. So buckle up, because we're about to uncover 15 of the most overrated 1960s muscle cars that you should never waste your money on in 2025. Number 15, 1964, Pontiac GTO. The 1964 Pontiac GTO is often called the father of the muscle car, the one that started Detroit's horsepower wars. On paper, it was everything a car lover could dream of: big V8 power, clean design, and that iconic GTO badge borrowed from Ferrari. It looked fast, it sounded mean, and it sold like wildfire. But here's the truth. The GTO's legend was built more on marketing than mechanics. Beneath the shine, it was a Pontiac Tempest, with a bigger engine and not much else. The steering felt vague, the brakes faded fast, and the handling was far from heroic. It was thrilling in a straight line but clumsy anywhere else. Today, collectors worship it, paying ridiculous prices for nostalgia. But drive one in 2025, and the illusion fades quickly. The suspension wallows, the cabin rattles, and the performance feels decades behind. The GTO changed history, yes, but that doesn't mean it still deserves the crown. Sometimes, the car that started the fire isn't the one that burns brightest. Number 14, 1968, Dodge Charger RT. The 1968 Dodge Charger RT is pure American cinema on wheels, long, wide, and menacing, with curves that made it an instant star. Thanks to movies like Bullet and shows like The Dukes of Hazzard, the Charger became a pop culture icon. Every gearhead wanted one. Not because it was perfect, but because it looked perfect. But behind that fastback beauty hides a truth most fans ignore. The Charger RT was built for the straight line, not the corners. It's heavy, visibility is terrible, and its steering feels like stirring a bucket of cement. On tight roads, it's less muscle car and more rolling billboard. Even the legendary 440 Magnum engine can't hide its flaws. The power's there, but getting it to the pavement smoothly is another story. In 2025, the Charger's price tag rivals exotic cars, yet its driving manners feel stuck in the past. It's a cinematic hero, just not a driver's car. If you're buying one today, you're paying for nostalgia, not performance. Number 13, 1967, Ford Shelby GT500. Few names spark as much respect as Shelby GT500. Built under Carroll Shelby's vision, it was meant to be the ultimate Mustang: aggressive styling, a roaring 428 cubic inch V8, and a badge that screamed domination. On the drag strip, it was a monster. On posters, it was a dream. But dreams don't always drive well. The 1967 GT500 was fast, yes, but it was also wild, heavy, and unpredictable. It understeered into corners, braked like a truck, and felt more muscle than machine. Even Shelby himself once admitted it was a handful. In today's world, that charm has turned into chaos. Behind the wheel in 2025, it feels massive, rough, and outdated, more of a museum piece than a weekend toy. Prices have soared past logic, and many buyers chase the name, not the experience. The GT500 remains a legend of brute force, but in truth, it's proof that raw power alone doesn't make perfection. It's a car for collectors, not drivers. Number 12, 1969, Ford Boss 429 Mustang. The 1969 Ford Boss 429 Mustang looks like pure domination, wide stance, deep scoops, and that monstrous semi-race 429 cubic inch V8. It was Ford's secret weapon, born to meet NASCAR rules, and only a handful were ever built. On paper, it sounds like the ultimate Mustang, raw, rare, and brutally fast. But here's the reality: the Boss 429 was a nightmare to live with. To fit that massive engine, Ford had to rework the car so much that it threw off its balance completely. The steering was heavy, the handling clumsy, and the power delivery unpredictable. It was designed to win on the track, not cruise down Main Street. Today, collectors treat it like gold, million-dollar price tags, endless bragging rights, but driving one in 2025 is a chore. It overheats easily, guzzles fuel like a jet, and feels more like a trophy than a thrill. The Boss 429 isn't a bad car. It's just trapped between racing fantasy and real-world frustration. Rare? Absolutely. Worth the hype? Not even close. Number 11, 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner. When the Plymouth Roadrunner hit the streets in 1968, it was a sensation. A no-frills, budget-friendly muscle car that came with a horn that literally went beep beep. It was simple, loud and proud. The blue-collar hero of the horsepower wars. For young drivers, it was freedom on four wheels. But that simplicity hasn't aged well. The Roadrunner was built cheap to keep prices low, and it shows. The interior feels hollow, the suspension is crude, and the steering is vague at best. It's fun in short bursts, but exhausting on real roads. Even its vaunted 440 Magnum engine struggles to mask how unrefined the car truly is. In 2025, nostalgia drives its value higher than its performance ever could. But take one for a spin, and you'll feel just how primitive it is. Noisy, rough, and tiring. The Roadrunner was perfect for its time, but today it's more cartoon than classic. Fun to watch, not fun to drive. Number 10, 1966. Chevrolet Chevelle SS396. The 1966 Chevelle SS396 was Chevrolet's answer to America's hunger for power. A mid-size coupe stuffed with a big block engine and dressed to impress. With its sharp lines, stacked headlights, and muscular stance, it looked every bit the street legend. When that 375 horsepower V8 roared to life, it could humble just about anything at a stoplight. But once the road curved, the Chevelle's magic faded fast. It was heavy on the nose, light on precision, and rode like a truck on rough pavement. The suspension couldn't keep up with the engine's strength, and the drum brakes, they were barely enough to tame all that mass. It was a muscle car built for straight-line glory, not corner-carving finesse. In 2025, the Chevelle SS has become a showpiece, a car people admire from a distance, but rarely drive far. Its looks still stop crowds, but its driving manners stop smiles. Beautiful, iconic, and overrated, the 1966 Chevelle SS396 proves that muscle alone doesn't equal mastery. Number 9, 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. The 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am had all the makings of a legend, a sleek body, racing stripes, and a name that screamed performance. The 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am had all the makings of a legend, a sleek body, racing stripes, and a name that screamed performance. Pontiac built it to rival the Camaro and Mustang on both the street and the track. Only a few hundred were ever made, making it one of the rarest and most collectible Firebirds today. But rarity doesn't always mean greatness. The original Trans Am came with a 345 horsepower V8 that sounded fierce, but delivered modest real-world results. Its handling was twitchy, the ride stiff, and the interior stripped down to save weight. It looked fast, but behind the wheel, it felt unfinished, more style than substance. Today, the Trans Am's price tag sits sky-high, driven by nostalgia and scarcity rather than performance. It's a car that photographs beautifully, but drives awkwardly. In 1969, it was a promise of racing glory. In 2025, it's a reminder that not every rare muscle car earned its reputation. Some just wore the right badge. Number 8, 1968 Oldsmobile 442. The 1968 Oldsmobile 442 was supposed to be the gentleman's muscle car, power with polish, muscle wrapped in luxury. It came with a 400 cubic inch V8, factory ram air, and serious street credibility. For its time, it was smooth, refined, and brutally quick in a straight line. But the W30's strength was also its curse. It weighed over 1,300 pounds, far too heavy for serious performance driving. Its plush interior and quiet manners made it feel more like a luxury cruiser than a street fighter. The steering was slow, the handling numb, and on tight roads, it felt like you were dragging a small boat behind the wheel. Today, collectors pay big money for that W30 badge, but when you actually drive one, the excitement fades. It's fast but distant, all brawn, no bite. In 2025, it's hard to see past the weight and the wallowing ride. The 442 W30 may have been classy in its day, but time has turned it from a muscle icon into a memory of what could have been. Number 7. 1969 AMC AMX 390 was America's rebel muscle car, small, aggressive, and eager to challenge the giants of Detroit. With its short wheelbase and high-revving 390 cubic-inch V8, it looked ready to take on anything from Ford, Chevy, or Dodge. It was bold, affordable, and different, everything a true underdog should be. But when the excitement faded, so did the illusion. The AMX struggled with quality issues from the start: rattly panels, weak interior trim, and a suspension setup that couldn't handle its own power. It was fast in a straight line, but twitchy and unpredictable in corners. AMC's limited budget meant corners were cut where they mattered most in refinement and durability. Today, the AMX 390 earns attention for its rarity, not its brilliance. Parts are hard to find, reliability is hit or miss, and most surviving cars feel fragile compared to their muscle-era rivals. It's an underdog, worth remembering, but not necessarily one worth owning. In 2025, the AMX remains a symbol of ambition and of how far passion can go before reality catches up. Number 6. 1968 Dodge Super Bee. The 1968 Dodge Super Bee was Dodge's way of saying you didn't need deep pockets to go fast. It was built for the working man, a no-frills, straight-line brawler with a 440 cubic-inch V8 and a wild attitude. Bright colors, big hood scoops, and a buzzing B badge gave it personality. For a few glorious years, it was the bargain king of the drag strip. But cheap speed came at a price. The Super Bee's interior was bare and rattly. Its ride was harsh, and its handling felt prehistoric. It was designed for quarter-mile sprints, not daily driving. The heavy clutch, sloppy gearbox, and stiff suspension made long trips feel like a workout. Fast forward to 2025, and the Super Bee's charm has faded under the weight of its flaws. Prices have climbed, but the experience hasn't aged gracefully. It's loud, rough, and stubborn. More muscle than manners. Fun for nostalgia's sake, sure, but as a serious buy today, it's more buzz than bite. Number 5. 1969 Mercury Marauder X100 looked like power incarnate. A massive fastback coupe with hidden headlights, sweeping lines, and a 430 cubic-inch V8 under the hood. It was Mercury's luxury muscle car, built to blend brute strength with comfort. On paper, it sounded like the perfect mix of brawn and class, but in reality, the Marauder X100 was more boulevard cruiser than backroad beast. Weighing well over 2 tons, it handled like a ship in rough water. The soft suspension and over-assisted steering made it float rather than corner. It could smoke its tires easily, but the thrill ended there. In 2025, collectors love its imposing looks, but few actually enjoy driving it. The X100 feels disconnected, numb, and clumsy, a muscle car in size only. It's impressive to look at and fun to talk about, but not fun to drive. The Marauder promised muscle with manners yet delivered neither. A beautiful giant that proved even power can feel lifeless when buried under too much metal. Number 4. 1964 Chevrolet Impala SS409 is one of those cars that every old-school gearhead swears by. Its name became a song lyric, a street legend, and a symbol of early 60s cool. With its 409 cubic-inch V8 and sleek, chrome-heavy styling, the Impala SS looked like the king of the strip and the boulevard alike. But under the nostalgia lies a hard truth. The Impala SS409 was more flash than finesse. Its massive body was heavy, its handling sloppy, and its brakes barely adequate for its size. Sure, it could roar in a straight line, but once the road twisted, the Impala lost its composure fast. Today, it's a collector favorite for its looks and legacy, not its performance. In 2025, owning one is like buying a piece of history, but not a car you'd actually want to drive daily. The ride is boat-like, the cabin rattles, and fuel efficiency is laughable. The 409 earned its fame, but it also reminds us that not every classic aged with grace. Sometimes, the legend is bigger than the machine. Number 3. 1967 Ford Mustang GT Fastback. The 1967 Ford Mustang GT Fastback is one of the most recognizable cars in history, a rolling symbol of freedom, rebellion, and pure American style. With its sweeping roofline, deep grille, and throaty V8, it looked ready to conquer every street and movie screen it touched. It looked like the perfect muscle car. But here's the catch. Looks can deceive. Despite its image, the 67 GT Fastback wasn't a true performance machine. Its small block V8s were decent, but not blistering, and its suspension was more comfort-oriented than track-ready. Compared to its rivals, it lacked the raw aggression of the GTO or the precision of the Camaro. By modern standards, it feels slow, vague, and clunky. Collectors still chase it for its silhouette, thanks in part to Bullitt and Steve McQueen. But behind the wheel, it's more nostalgia than adrenaline. In 2025, it's a gorgeous garage queen, not a thrilling driver's car. The 1967 Fastback will always win hearts for its style, but it's proof that sometimes the most iconic cars weren't the best performers. Number 2, 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Z28 is worshipped like holy ground among muscle car fans. Born for the Trans Am Racing Series, it had a high-revving 302 cubic inch small block V8, tight handling, and one of the sharpest looks of the late 60s. It was precision wrapped in pure attitude, the car that turned Chevy's Pony into a legitimate racer. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The Z28 wasn't built for comfort, or even casual driving. Its engine only came alive above 4,000 RPM, meaning daily driving felt sluggish. The steering was heavy, the ride stiff, and the cabin noisy enough to drown out conversation. What was thrilling on a racetrack became exhausting on city streets. In 2025, collectors still drool over it, but few truly enjoy owning one. Finding original parts is a headache, and values have skyrocketed to the point where most owners are too afraid to drive them. The Z28 is a masterpiece, but one that demands patience, money, and tolerance for discomfort. It's the perfect example of how a race-bred legend can lose its shine once you try to live with it. Number 1, 1969 Dodge Coronet Super B. The 1969 Dodge Coronet Super B was supposed to be Dodge's answer to the affordable muscle craze, a tougher, meaner sibling to the Plymouth Roadrunner. It came with bold graphics, a buzzing B badge, and serious engine options, including the legendary 446 cubic inch Hemi. On paper, it was the perfect mix of price and power. But the problem? It was born in the shadow of its twin. The Roadrunner stole the spotlight with its cartoon branding and pop culture fame, leaving the Super B struggling for attention. Mechanically, the two were nearly identical, but buyers didn't care. The Coronet's heavier body and plainer looks made it feel like the other muscle car. Today, prices have climbed, but nostalgia can't hide its flaws. The handling is clumsy, the ride unforgiving, and the interiors Spartan, even by 60s standards. In 2025, the Coronet Super B feels more like a curiosity than a collectible. It's a car that tried to sting but never quite landed the hit. A loud, heavy brute lost in the echoes of stronger legends. The muscle car era of the 1960s was pure magic, a time when Detroit built machines with more heart than logic and more horsepower than restraint. But as time passes, nostalgia can blur reality. Some of these once revered legends now feel clunky, overpriced, and impractical for modern roads. They look incredible in photos and sound glorious in memory, yet behind the wheel, many simply don't live up to their myth. That doesn't make them worthless, far from it. Each one tells a story about America's wildest automotive decade, when competition bred chaos and character. But in 2025, smart collectors look beyond badges and nostalgia. They seek balance. Cars that feel as good as they look, that mix old-school soul with real drivability. So before you drop your hard-earned cash on a classic icon, remember, not every muscle car from the 60s deserves a hero's welcome. Some are best left admired from afar, polished, photographed, and parked in history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the truth behind the myths, hit that like button, subscribe to Regal Rides, and join us next time as we uncover more hidden stories from the golden age of muscle. Until then, keep the engines roaring and the legends alive.